All right. So, hello and welcome to the Gauntlet Hangouts. My name is Lowell, he, him. Today we are doing the first of 4 sessions of Amber Diceless here on the Gauntlet. Amber is a classic game. It has been remade recently by Wright Publishing a few years ago. Which has a different setting to it, but works with the mechanics and plays with those. So that is what is mostly available now, though the PDF is available on Drive-Thru and elsewhere. Amber Diceless is a game that came out in the 1990s. It's very much a story game, but it's a story game from the 1990s. Which means that there's still a lot more GM call and response. We're going to play a little more collaboratively, a little more story gamey than perhaps the book has, just because that's the approach I'm comfortable with. And it is also a game that assumes like a big group of people at the table and a lot of PvP. So we're dialing the PvP down just a little bit. There'll still be conflicting agendas. But we will come to that in a bit. If you're watching this game is part of the Gauntlet Hangouts, which is an online gaming community. The Gauntlet gaming community, you can find out more about that at gauntlet-rpg.com. So I encourage you to check that out. So in Amber Diceless, we're going to be creating characters who are from Roger Zelazny's Amber series of books. Basically, what that means is characters that have extraordinary powers, can move between worlds. We have the twin poles of Amber and the courts of chaos and the shadows that lie in between. And we have families that are strongly political, a lot of infighting, that kind of thing. And you will be playing children associated with that, and we'll figure out who you are, what your relationship to those people are. Now, Peter, you said you've read the books, and Stephen, you know the background a bit. William, what's your familiarity with this?
I've read the first book.
Okay,
so somewhat familiar.
Yeah, so and honestly, the first book is in some ways the best book because it's really clean and to the point. But you've got the basics. There are family of people. Various brothers and half brothers and half sisters there. You're going to be related to them. Depending on the powers you choose, you'll be able to, either use chaos or pattern to move through. And you're going to have a lot of leeway about what you do. You are going to be powerful, potent people. This is a game that is pretty open-ended. One of the things is, especially with a diceless game and a storytelling game like this, there's not a lot of direction. One of the things I like about PBTA is you can look at the moves if you don't know what to do, but you get a lot of freedom. So feel free to pause to think about what it is you want to do or how you want to approach things, or ask questions so that we can figure out how to move forward in the story. We will be using the X card as our basic safety tools. The X card is on the table. William, are you familiar with that?
Yep.
Okay, good. I hadn't played with you before. This is great. I like playing with new people, so I'm really glad to have you here. And I want to remind everybody, X card is for content, is for tone, is for triggering on phobias, as I've had that at the table. If something goes past you the first couple of times and you're like, I'm okay, and then later on you're like, I've stopped being okay with that, it is legit to X card that later. You can X card via the chat. You can X card that with the X card signal, or you can do that just by saying, I want to X card that. And we'll just figure out where we need to edit, and we'll go past that. Now, the other thing I want to do is, because this is a very open-ended game, and reading the books, which are from the 1960s, there's some aggressive stuff in there. So what I want to do is I do want to have us establish lines and veils before we go into this. And lines being anything that is a hard line, that we want to definitely keep off the table, and veils being anything that when it occurs at the table, we're going to fade to black. And we're going to do this sort of openly here. If there's something you're not comfortable with saying out loud as a line or a veil, feel free to email me and I'll add that into our list. That is absolutely available as an option to you. Well, let me start with the veil that I always put on the table. Is that for me, torture is off the table. Heroes don't do torture. Torture doesn't work. Bad guys do it. We don't see that on the table. It's not a heroic option. Even though you see it in the books, it's not a thing that we're going to be having as an element of our game. So for me, that's going to be a hard line for something I'd like to definitely keep off the table. Peter, let me come to you and see if you have anything that you would like to voice as a line or a veil.
I think the one that jumps to my mind, veil on harm to children or animals.
Okay. Implications, but nothing on screen.
Exactly.
Okay. Anything else you want to point to?
Veil on sexual content.
Okay. Fade to black on that. We'll do the Buffy approach.
Sounds good.
Stephen, how about you?
I'd like to do a hard line on sexual violence.
Okay.
So.
Anything else?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. William, anything that you want to add as a line or a veil?
I think everyone's covered it already. Thanks.
Okay. Excellent. All right. So we've got some of those things set. So what we're going to do is the first thing that we're going to start with as we go to our character keeper here is we are going to do an attribute auction. Your characters have 4 very important attributes. They are all quite interesting and important, and I'll talk about what they mean because part of the ritual of Amber is me kind of going through that a little bit. You have 120 points. Whatever points you don't spend on this attribute auction, you will then have to spend on the powers, magic, and so on. The book suggests that a pattern imprint, the 50.1 is really useful. If you want to be a scion of Amber, you can go other directions, but it suggests that it is possible to sell back your attributes. Right now, at the default, if you don't spend any points on an attribute, you are Amber rank, meaning that you are strong and potent in that area, but others are probably going to have an edge on you of your brethren. If you sell yourself down to human rank, then you're super weak and you'll be super vulnerable in that area. And the GM will make sure that you face challenges in that area. Chaos rank is somewhere in between. It's a hard choice. We have a couple of things on the powers that are variable, like making up artifacts or making up creatures. If you want to have a magic item or have a magical creature, after we get the attribute auction done, we can talk about what you want and we'll give you a point cost for that. We can kind of figure that out. So without further ado, I'm going to start with this. So we have 4 attributes. And of these 4 attributes, the first one that we're going to talk about is psyche. Psyche is mental resistance. It's mental awareness. It's being able to read people. It's being able to use the magical powers. Anything that is about the manipulation of powers and things like that is certainly built on psyche. It's super important. In fact, I think we can say that psyche is the most important stat of the 4. So we're going to do this as an open bid here. Peter, you have 120 points. Would you like to bid any points on your psyche?
I'll bid 10 points on psyche.
10 points on psyche. Stephen, what were you thinking about for psyche?
How do ties work?
Oh, there are no ties.
So if I bid 10,
you can't bid 10. You have to bid below or above. Actually, you actually have to bid above now at this point. Sorry.
Oh, you can only bid above.
Yes.
I'll bid 15.
15. Okay. William, what do you want to bid? Keep in mind, everybody, that once you bid, those points are gone.
So if I can't be like, I want to be 12, I want to be in the middle. I have to be 16 or nothing.
That is correct. You would go for 15, or we would say 16, or you would take the amber rank and just take that as a default.
All right, I'm going to go 17.
Okay, 17. Peter, come back to you. Now you're third place in psyche. 25. Okay. Yep. Stephen.
I'm not going to bid.
Not going to bid. Going to stick at 15.
Oh, wait. We're still doing psyche?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm not going to increase. No.
Okay. William, what about you?
I'm good.
Okay. So that means that Peter is rank 1 with psyche. That cost him 25 points. William, you are rank 2 with psyche. Cost you 17 points.
By the way, you can call me Will.
Sorry, Will.
Really cool.
Oh, sorry. Oh, and let me check. Peter, your pronouns he, him?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Stephen?
Yes,
okay.
He, him.
Will?
He, him is fine, yeah.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure on that. And then, Stephen, you are at rank 3 with 15 points there. Okay. So psyche, good important stat. The next stat is strength. Strength is about your physical muscles. It's also your ability to execute actions that require that physical exertion. It's your resistance damage. It's also your hand-to-hand strength. When you go barehanded, it kind of represents what you can do when you actually get your hands on somebody. It is very much that get in and close. And it is, if you don't have a weapon, if you don't have a gun, don't have other options, then strength is your fallback. And so it's about exertion, about resistance, about hand-to-hand skill. So we can really say that it's probably the most important stat of them. So we started with Peter last time. Stephen, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Fantastic. I'm going to bid 0.
Going to bid 0. All right. So Will, you can easily get at least a second place here with just 1 point.
Sure.
Now, mind you, Stephen can come back. So what do you think?
I'll bid 1 point.
1 point. Peter?
I'll bid 10.
You bid 10. Stephen, still 0?
Still 0.
Will?
Yeah, I'll be 0. I mean, I'll be 1.
Okay. Peter, you don't have to raise it. So Peter, you get rank 1 in strength for 10 points. Will, you get rank 2 for 1 point. And you will start at amber rank then, Stephen. All right. The third one, simple and easy, is endurance. Endurance comes into play all the time. It comes into play on the question of whether you can stand for long-term fights. Endurance complements psyche. It complements strength. It complements warfare. It is the thing that when we're going to be looking at how things maybe get edged out, endurance is the way that we can see how well that you can hold up when you're fairly equally matched, or you've managed to get yourself close on that. The other thing is, of course, it is about healing and recovery, and all of that. And since it is about whether you're alive or dead, one could say, if one wanted to, that it is the most important stat. So, Will, I'm going to start with you on this one. Would you like to start the bidding?
Sure, I'll bid 10 points.
10 points. Peter.
12 points.
12 points. Look at you. Stephen?
0.
0. Will?
15 points.
15 points. Peter?
17 points.
Ooh. Still out, Stephen?
Still out.
Okay. Come back to you, Will.
I'll go to 20 points.
20 points. Peter?
30.
Gasp. Stephen is still out, I assume. Will?
Still out.
That's fine. I'll stay at 20 points.
Okay. So, Peter, for 30 points, you have endurance rank 1. Will, you have endurance rank 2 for 20 points. And amber rank for you for strength there, Stephen. Last but not least, our fourth stat, our fourth attribute is warfare. You're all trained in warfare. You know how to use weapons. You know how to use guns. You know how duels and swordplay work. And it is about your knack for tactics, your knack for strategy. Weakness in warfare is probably more dangerous than in any other attribute. And warfare is about tactical vision. It's about leadership. It's about weapon skills. It's about reaction time. It's about strategy, all of those things. So warfare is definitively the most important attribute. Peter, you've spent quite a bit, but I have to come back to you and see, would you like to open the bidding on warfare?
5 points.
5 points. Stephen?
0.
0 again. Will?
10 points.
10 points. Peter, we come back to you.
I'm done.
Okay. And Stephen, you're out? Okay. Will, you are number 1 in warfare for 10 points. Peter, you're number 2 in warfare for 5 points. Stephen, you are amber rank in warfare. So you can total up your points there on the spreadsheet at the bottom. And so let's see then. Looks like, Peter, you spent 35, 65, 70 points.
That's what I've counted.
Okay. And Will, I think we've got, let's see here, 27, 28, 48 for you, if I'm reading that right. Okay. So let me then check in and see what you're thinking about in terms of a character. I'm going to hide this first column since we're not using that one. Hide columns. Stephen, it seems to me, I'm going to come to you first because it seems to me like you have a plan here of some kind, having sat on those points. What do you think about taking power wise? And everybody can have the same powers. That is not a problem. But what is it you think you want?
So I'm thinking I want advanced pattern imprint.
Okay.
I'm also thinking I want power word.
Okay. Yeah, and power words get you that 10 points there will get you 5 power words that are real simple, basic effect spells.
Right.
And so that's 75 points plus another 10, so it's 85 points.
Plus the 15 I spent.
Yeah,
which
so
gets me to 100.
You still get 20 left, and you can overspend if you want or underspend. If you overspend, you just get bad stuff, which means that when I come to deciding what happens to you, it'll go bad.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'll use the last 20 points towards an artifact.
Oh, okay. So go ahead and write those in, and we'll talk about what you might want artifact-wise in a moment. Peter, what are you thinking that you wish to buy?
I mean, honestly, when it came time for the auction stuff, I was expecting to rank one and maybe two things, and now I'm going, oh, I might be pretty good attribute-wise. As for powers, I have limited myself.
That you have, yeah. You've still got 50 points left, it looks like to me, right?
Yes. So I think... Okay, let me think about this.
Okay. Do you want me to let you chew on that for a bit?
Yeah, come back to me.
Will, you still got a good chunk of points. Do you have any questions about any of the powers, or do you already kind of know what you want to have?
I have a couple of questions. So
sure.
First of all, so I've read the first Amber book, and they don't really mention chaos very much. I think they mention it right at the start, but I don't really know that much about that part of the setting. So if I have this Logris mastery, does that allow me to travel between worlds like the pattern imprint does, or not?
So what it allows you to do is there are a couple of ways in places that are especially close to Amber. There are roads that are a little easier to move through, to pull yourself through. What the Logris does, though, for your means to travel is the Amberites move and kind of change the world as they go along in their mind, and allows them to move through the different shadows. The Logris, the chaos magic, has the tendrils that you can reach out and grab things out in shadow and bring them to you. The way that you can travel is you actually kind of reach out to a place and then use the tendril to pull you to that place. It is a rough approach. It is not precise, but it does allow you to move through shadow. It's just a different approach to it.
Okay, and my other question is that if I have sort of Logris instead of pattern, does that mean that I'm still a native of Amber, or would I be someone who's a native of Chaos?
Well, one of the things we can that we can define here is we'll define like who you imagine as parent or a relationship or that kind of thing, and there are some crossover people that have roles in both Chaos and Amber in the books and things like that. So you could certainly be, have a relative who is an Amberite. You've just taken up the Chaos side of your heritage. It's easy for you to do that.
Okay, in that case, I think I want to take, let me see the list of powers. I want to take shape-shifting, and I want to take Logris Mastery.
Okay.
That will put me a bit over my my point cost. So I might have to take a few points of bad stuff.
Yeah. But that's pretty good set. Shape-shifting is nice. I mean, you've got the basic level that allows you to do some cool stuff. You can define what your sort of base form is that you can fall into. It is you can eventually come up with new forms. It also helps with wounds and all of that kind of thing. So we'll kind of have you define that. Yeah. That is a good pick. Let me come back to you, Peter. What are you thinking?
So how bad is the bad stuff? Like,
let me find the description of that here in the book, if I may. Just to
yeah.
This is an old book.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it does have. Let me see. Bad stuff warning.
Mm-hmm.
See here. That's page 13. Too much bad stuff, which you can get from spend too many points, can result in losing some control. If you have a great deal of bad stuff, things may go terribly wrong for you. Let's see if we can get a better, more precise explanation of what that looks like here. So here's how it says. Bad stuff. The only advantage of bad stuff is that you get points for taking it. How bad is bad? It's really bad. Every time something is left up to chance, your game master is going to have a look at your stuff. Any bad stuff, and the game master is going to assume that chance just took a turn for the worse. Bad stuff attitude. Anyone with bad stuff is going to have to overcome their first impressions or something vaguely sinister about the character. The more bad stuff, the worse it is. You can always talk your way into a better reputation. It's just an uphill fight. Bad stuff encounters when the game master is looking around for a fall guy, somebody to find out something unpleasant, or someone to experience a first attack from unknown enemy. Guess who the game master is going to pick?
All right. That makes me very, very excited. And by excited, I mean, well, if I'm going to screw myself over, I might as well screw myself over royally.
Okay.
So I think okay, so I think what I'm going to go ahead and do then oh no, before I was like I have to stay within the point limit, and now I've just screwed myself over. Actually, okay. I
Let
know.
me say this. Will has taken 8 points. That's still quite a bit of bad stuff. Okay. That's still quite a bit. So I'm just telling you that in terms of the GM imagining numbers, once we start getting to double digits, I'm going to rub my hands together, and it's going to get very bad for people.
Okay. I think I will go ahead and take pattern imprint.
Okay.
So that's 50. I will also take an amber devotee.
Ooh.
Because it would be nice to have one person who really likes me.
I think that seems like a reasonable thing to do.
Yeah. And I think, at least for now, I will leave it there and work my way to others.
Okay.
I'm sorry. What is Amber Devotee? I didn't see that.
Oh, that's under the powers magic stuff. That means has a strong named personage in the Amber Court who loves and supports you.
Fantastic.
Basically, I mean, yeah, things are going to start to go bad for me, but A, I'm not the one with the most bad stuff right now, and B, I need someone in my corner.
So,
that
go ahead.
Fair. Go on.
I have to admit, I played a one-shot of Amber once, and exactly the same thing happened. I sat back and I watched everybody bid super high on attributes, and I was like, there's no way I can win one. There's no way I can get up there in the high, so I'm just going to hold on to it and see what I can do at the end. And then I was the only one who had pattern imprint, so that was super important. So I'm really excited to see how the bad stuff turns out and how the Logris imprint turns out.
Yeah.
That'll be cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. So what I want to do then is, Stephen, do you have a sense of what you might want in terms of an artifact?
I actually don't. I just had 20 points left over.
Okay.
And I like things. So I was like, that sounds interesting.
Do you imagine you want a couple of things, or do you want a weapon, or do you want armor, or
so
in general? What do you think?
I would think in general a utility, something that isn't necessarily a weapon, but something a little bit versatile.
Okay.
Something obvious is Trump. I was looking at the Trump powers. If I'm not mistaken, they're 50 points. Is that right? 40 points.
They are 40 points.
As Lowell would say, it's only 20 points of bad stuff. It would be fine. But yeah. I can't remember. It's been like 30 years since I've read the books, so I can't remember other items they had. Wasn't there a magical sword?
There's a magical sword. You can make up anything that you want. One of the things you could do is for 2 points, you could get yourself everyone will have a trump deck, but you have a trump deck essentially that can't get taken away from you. That has out all the pictures and all the characters and things like that. But yeah, why don't you think on that?
Okay.
How you wanna do that? Let me have you everybody put those in, get names, and what I want to do is come around and we're going to kind of do a little convo about what you're imagining with your character. I'm going to ask you some open-ended questions about that, and try to get a sense of who you are through that process. So, Peter, your character amongst this sort of lineage here, this generation of younger Amberites, is pretty potent in and amongst your fellows here. Strong in psyche, strong in strength, strong in endurance, still decent in warfare. Tell me, how are you picturing your character? What is their name, and how are you imagining them?
So I at least have a name, Simon Mort. Actually, we'll go Simon Morte because I put an E at the end. So I'm being extra, arrogant. I mean, the funny thing was when I first kind of was thinking out like a character to create. One of the things I wanted to do was especially focus on the psyche and endurance, that I can like think my way around my enemies. And now I'm hard pressed to find something that I might actually have a problem with my enemies with. I'm sure I'll have problems, but
Oh yes,
it's going to be harder for me to like really go, okay, but I can, okay. So I think one of the things that I'm still trying to figure out, because of the fact that I have a lot of things that I'm actually good at, where I'm sort of like coming from with this character.
He has a parent,
mm-hmm.
And we can kind of figure out who that is, what kind of person. There'll be a named one of the court, and we can tell you what they are, and then we can get a name from the book for that. Mm-hmm. Who actually pays attention to you, who actually gives you the time of day, as opposed to the others, for whom their parents are probably distant figures. So do you imagine that you were raised in Amber? Do you imagine that you were kept away to keep you out of the politics, but your parent, watched over you? How are you picturing that?
I was kept away from all the politics. But what ended up happening is that I was one of the few people who sort of found out the truth about things and kind of forced my way back in. Despite the fact that I was probably, off in some shadow world, not dealing with any of this, I kind of pushed my way back in when I was older, and, it was a feat even just doing that.
What kind of shadow world were you raised in? Was it a more medieval one? Was it a more modern one? Was it a more techno one? Was it a bizarre hybrid? What kind of world did you grow up in?
I feel like it was a medieval type of world, except for the fact that their ideals and morals were updated to a modern standard.
Okay.
So it wasn't just like, men having all the power, and it wasn't just like that sort of thing. It was very much like it was going through its own sort of renaissance.
Okay.
Very much kind of, and I think whether it was intended or not, it kind of got me thinking enough that I started to push even outside of that.
Do you think that your Amberite parentage, is that your mother or your father?
Gonna say my mother.
Okay.
I would normally say my father, but I'm like, I'm choosing something different this time.
Okay. And how would you describe your mother's persona, her attitude?
I think one of the things that is immediately is noticeable when you spend a lot of time around her is that very little seems to faze her. She seems like she has a very strong awareness of the things that go on around her, and even if she did not know of something at one time, if someone starts to, kind of let her in on it, she figures things out immediately. She's very good at putting things together, both mentally and physically.
A sorceress or more of a warrior?
Sorceress, definitely. It would explain kind of my own, I want to say, distaste towards warfare. It's not that I think I wasn't like the best at warfare. I just really it's something that I learned mostly because I realized I needed to have some edge in that, or else I was going to suffer.
So if that is the case, then I think your mother is Fiona.
Okay.
That is one of the princesses of Amber. She's the one with the best knowledge of pattern. She is the best sorceress amongst the family in many ways.
Okay.
So what was your father like?
I think one of the interesting things is that my father is probably one of the more humble members of the Amber Court, just in the sense that he knows that Fiona is absolutely the brains of this. That, she was the one to come up with the idea to kind of send me off into Shadow, and he absolutely agreed, but did not for a second try and take credit for it.
So your father actually was in court. So you were sent to this Shadow to be raised there, completely apart from Amber. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to come back and ask you some more questions in a bit, but I'm going to kind of cycle around because I don't want to hit everybody hammer with this. Stephen?
Yes.
Tell us a bit about who you're imagining you are.
So the name I have is Morgard Lanhe, something like that. And just to mimic off of some of the previous questions you've asked, I imagine him as pronouns as he, him.
Okay.
I imagine him as bookish, someone who separated himself from the court, was raised in Amber, probably spent a lot of time studying and doing research and trying to stay out of people's ways. I imagine this is because his parents, let's say his father was disgraced in the court.
Okay.
Something big happened, and his father was deemed to be at fault. Whether justified or not, I'm not certain.
Okay. So does that mean that the sort of the higher lord of Amber that you're related to is on your mother's side then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And how would you describe her? What is her approach to things? Is she more direct? Is she more thoughtful? Is she more beautiful? Is she more cautious?
I think she's very manipulative in courtly manners. That's why the disappointment that occurred. That's why the problem that occurred with my father. She's striving to overcome that. I think I disappoint her.
Okay.
Because I am not involved in the courts, and from her perspective, that's the only way to, get ahead in life.
So I think that will make you the scion of Flora then.
Okay.
She is the most beautiful of the essentially the princesses in Amber, and knows it. and she's also a person who turns with the winds as is needed. Smart in that regard. And so you mentioned you grew up in Amber, studied pattern, but your parent just didn't have time for you, or actively disliked you.
I actively disliked me because I reminded her of the embarrassment of my father.
And is your father still alive? Still dead?
I think he's still alive.
Okay.
Nobody knows that he's dead, but I don't want to say he's like in prison or anything. He's just disgraced.
Okay.
So no one really keeps up with him. Maybe he's out and about in shadow.
Okay. What's his name?
Ooh, names. Give me just a sec.
Sure.
His name is Laudius, Laudius.
Okay. And do you think that you yourself, Morgard, know why he was disgraced?
No. I don't think people really talk about this. This is, I've heard several different stories, but I don't know which ones are true.
Okay. I'm going to come back and talk to you about siblings and friends and goals and stuff and all that. And we'll come back in another round here. Will, what is your character's name?
My character's name is Joanna.
Pronouns?
She, her.
Okay.
And I think the way I was envisioning this character was like maybe kind of a bit of a black sheep of the family, and a bit of like a heart of darkness type character who's gone out into shadow, and she has like a realm that she has conquered. I know that you have to like spend points on that to make it like inviolable. So my realm is not necessarily completely under my control, or it's not necessarily protected from bad stuff happening to it in game terms. But yeah, so I think she fled from Amber and went and got this chaos power from wherever you get the chaos power from. I think it's like as kind of at the edge of the universe, right?
Mm-hmm. You head as far away from Amber as you can until the world starts getting strange, and probably would have met someone from the Court of Chaos who would have gifted you with that, thinking that a great joke in some ways. So Joanna, did she grow up in Amber? Did she grow up in Shadow? Grow up in a place that was more ruled by chaos? How do you imagine that?
I think she grew up in Amber, but she really didn't like it, and that's why she left to go and seek the power of chaos.
And what was her interaction with her parent? Was her parent, her Amberite parent, was that her mother? Was that her father?
I was actually thinking, and you can sort of tell me if this is wrong because I haven't
Sure.
read all of it. But as I understand it, at this point, Eric used to be king, but now he's dead.
Yes.
So I was thinking that maybe I would be like an illegitimate child of Eric, and that's why I was treated pretty badly.
That seems perfect to me. Eric died a hero's death, but he was still the first person to go for the claim for the throne. He was still the person who pushed everything into disorder, who caused, in the end, a great tumult. And he was the one who was, by many, considered the leader for the race to the throne. And so any child of Eric will be regarded, as you say, with some suspicion, and to come from chaos. Yeah, that makes a perfect sense. So your relationship to your father is very much the absent father kind of thing. And let me ask you this then. Do you have siblings? Do you think you have brothers, sisters, anything like that? Or are you pretty much the only child of this particular line of Eric's?
I think I have a half sister. I think my mother was like some mortal woman. Maybe Eric doesn't even really remember much about sleeping with her. So I'm kind of like low blooded. Whereas my half sister, her mother was like someone from Amber, someone from the court. So she had a much easier time, even though we had the same father. She was treated with a lot more respect as we grew up, and that kind of jealousy is part of what drove me away from Amber, and I still have a lot of resentment towards her.
Do you think that she can walk the pattern? Does she have the ability to walk through shadow?
Yeah, I think maybe that was part of why I went to get the power of Logris, is because I was jealous of her having the power of the pattern.
And what is her name?
Her name is Sybil.
Sybil. What does you're a shape changer, so this is sort of a silly question in some ways, but what is your default appearance for Joanna? How does she look? Tall, short, long hair, short hair, skin? Tell me about that.
I think she's quite tall, and she has long hair, and she spends most of her time kind of like on battlefields, marching around on like endless campaigns. So she's usually pretty dirty and like has like a very wild appearance, which she kind of takes pride in. She takes pride in shocking if when she meets courtly Amber people, she takes pride in shocking them with her appearance.
I like that. All right, I'm going to come back to you with some other questions, but I want to switch back over to Simon. Simon, let's start with that question about appearance. What does Simon look like?
So I think one of the most immediately noticeable things that Simon has shockingly bright red hair.
Straight, curly?
Curly. He's pretty built, honestly.
Okay.
It's not something he shies away from, and I think outfit wise, it tends to accentuate rather than hide the fact that he is one of the strongest.
So he definitely dresses to make it clear that he is someone to be taken seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think also it's not just like, oh, this is an outfit that shows off my form. It's like it's a well put together outfit. I'm still like putting it together in my mind, but it's the fact that like it's not just that he dresses to show off. He dresses because he knows how to show off.
You have red hair.
Uh-huh.
So what color do you think is going to be dominant? And you probably have a couple of colors, just like you would with a heraldry, but what do you think would be the appropriate dominant color?
Green.
Green. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have siblings?
I think I have a younger brother.
Okay.
And his name is Tobias.
Tobias.
Yeah.
And is to Tobias an amberite? Is he of the pattern?
He very much is an amberite. I think when it kind of came down to who to send away, Tobias never really seemed like he would be the type of person who would rise to anything dangerous. And I think that actually might be one of the reasons why, from my perspective at least, he's already started to rise to something dangerous, because no one's paid enough attention to him to realize perhaps the routes that he's taking.
And he is your full brother then?
Yep. No halvesies.
No halvesies on that. If you're out in the world doing things, and we'll establish some relationship things, I'll come to that in a moment here. But if you're going out in the world, what drives Simon? Is it a call to adventure? Is it him looking for power? Is it about discovering things? Is it about ennui, getting acknowledgement, getting recognition, picking up secret knowledge, or even that you're just being swept along?
I mean, I think it's been a progression. I think it started out just sort of being swept along and finding kind of that he'd be taken to places that he could just kind of take advantage of the situation. But as of late, I think it's very much discovery of both for secret knowledge purposes and also for recognition. Because despite being the older brother, he is the less known brother.
Morgard, let me ask you about what you look like.
Yes. So I am obviously male, as I mentioned earlier. Typically I'm wearing, robes and maybe a short cape. Hair is kind of tasseled, short brown hair, kind of pale, and has a short cropped beard.
And with that, let me think how I want to phrase this for you. Well, let's start with a bit more basic question here. Do you have siblings?
Yes. I have older siblings that are twins. They are very much in favor with my mother in the courts. Their names are Bastian and Bray. Bastian is male and Bray is female. And they very much know what they are doing.
What do they think of you?
Again, they have used me in the past in order to forward their agendas. But other than that, I don't think they pay much attention.
Would you want them to pay more attention, or are you relieved to not have their attention on you?
I think that outwardly it appears as if I dislike their attention because they've used me in the past, and that seems to put me in a bad place.
Okay.
However, I think internally I'm a little jealous. There's this, conflict within me about that.
Let me come to you with this question about what kind of drives you to be outside the bounds of going in. Is it adventure, looking for power, trying to find something, trying to gain acknowledgement, as I said, ennui? What do you think drives Morgard?
So I think in general, he was kind of pulled along at first into adventure, and that was not really something he felt comfortable with. And I want to say that the artifact, during one of these adventures, he found this artifact and feels like this might be a path for him to redeem himself somewhat in the eyes of his family,
Okay.
or maybe gain his own confidence and go out on his own. Something that he hadn't ever really felt confident about before.
What form does that artifact take?
So I've been trying to kind of struggle through that, and I'd like to talk about the artifact a little bit.
Sure.
I happen to see in the rules there's something about it could be a creature or an artifact.
Yes.
So I was thinking maybe basically a familiar.
Okay.
But one that's more solidified than a shadow creature. So I don't know a whole lot about the lore. Are there creatures that exist that are solely from amber that are kind of more solid as they pass through shadow?
Yes, and actually, even your attention on a thing makes it more real, more solid. They are always solid out there, but in terms of how they endure and so on, the more attention, more contact the amberites put with them, the stronger they become. And certainly with the picks that you have for building a familiar, a creature, you can make them they're solid. They're like strong NPCs.
Yeah, so basically I went through and kind of picked point stuff for the points that I had left over. The thing that I envision narratively is more along the lines of almost a familiar, almost a mentor to a certain extent, and something that is mutable. So as you pass through adventure from shadow to shadow, maybe sometimes it's in the form of a wolf, maybe sometimes it's in the form of a raven. Is that something that is possible, or is there a power for that, or is that something we could just deal with narratively?
I think there is a power for that. We'll figure out the points on that.
Fantastic. So in that case, I'll drop something else to get that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is its default form? When we usually see it, what do you suppose that is?
I think it's a wolf.
Okay. All right. I will come back to you. Joanna. What? Let me think how I want to put this with the chaos stuff. Well, let's consider. We know that you're kind of rebelling against things, against the pattern and so on, and you've been drawn into this. We have your older sister here. What is it that you want? What is it that Joanna desires?
I think above everything else, she wants power, and she wants to be able to show everyone in Amber that she's equal to them or better than them.
And do you think that she realizes that? Like, is that pretty singular in her vision for herself? Or does she have any other tales that she tells herself about why she's doing these things?
Yeah, I think on the surface, what she would tell herself and what she would tell people is more like that she's just bored, and she's just like, to her, this whole wars that she fights in the shadow is just like a big game.
All right. I think that gives me a strong set of things to work with. What I would like to do is I think we're going to take 5 here. And when we come back, we're going to kind of figure out how you know each other, because we're going to start with the default assumption that our characters do know each other. We're going to build some relationships between them, some connections. And I'm going to ask them, ask all of you, what it is you care for. What is it that is valuable to you? And what is it you would fight to defend? So that's going to be a question I'm going to put to you, but we're going to take 5 minutes and then we'll come back. All right?
Can I ask a question real quick?
Absolutely.
Because Joanna has Logris abilities, does that put her at odds with those of us from pattern abilities?
Not necessarily. You're both. Okay. She has the blood of Amber in her. She probably more at odds because she has 8 points of bad stuff, and a bad attitude.
Okay.
But I mean, and the chaos will make people suspicious.
Okay.
But we will start with the PCs at least at a relative détente. see that Stephen has found the all-important picture. There's always an important step in the character creation process.
I think I've said this before. I've gotten very used to online games, and I find whenever I play face-to-face games now, for the past year or so, we go through some portion of character creation, and then I'm frantically looking for a picture on my phone.
I will admit that I have printed up a lot of playing card-sized character images for the different campaigns. And we're just starting a couple of science fiction ones, so I had to do a couple of big sets of those. And yeah, I do miss, if I don't have them, I miss it.
Yeah.
I also miss spending 2 hours on Pinterest trying to find something. So there is that. Morgard, what is it that you value?
Knowledge and truth.
Okay.
In summary.
In what sense? I mean, is it really about the abstract knowledge? Is it about secrets? Is it about philosophy? It just enjoys learning? What in what sense?
So I think in general, the way that this manifests itself is early on, Morgard saw the dishonesty and the what's the right word? The lack of information among the courts caused disfavor with his father.
Okay.
And caused this rift. And he withdrew from the courtly intrigue. I think it became along the lines of knowledge for knowledge's sake rings right to him. It's almost as if it's built into his DNA. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, a sense of truth. If it came down to it, what does he want to protect? What are there people he wants to protect? Are there places he wants to protect?
Ooh, that's a good question.
If not people, that says something.
I think it's not people because people have hurt him. Okay. I think it's places. I think he feels a deep sense of loyalty to Amber itself as the center of the universe, and that going out and finding knowledge and bringing it back makes Amber better and greater.
That maybe you can add something to its glory.
Yeah, I wouldn't say glory. I would say strength.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said that people have hurt you. But besides, I mean, we know about your mother and your father on that. We know kind of the relation that you have with your twin elders. What happened? What is the shaping moment for you?
So I think that in general, to be a little bit trite, I imagine in Amber school, whenever you're younger, that, you learn a lot of things about how to fit in. And Morgard didn't fit in with the normal Amberites as he was growing up. I think they shunned him, and that's how he got this sense of being an outsider. A defining moment of that, what's a good example? I imagine your trite schoolyard kind of stuff where
trite schoolyard amongst the Amberites is people pulling blades on one another.
Yeah. So I imagine it's they basically tricked him into going into a disreputable place, and he thought it was going to be a party or something like that, and it turned out to be a setup where he was mugged and beaten.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And does he have any physical signs of that?
Ooh. I think he walks with a limp.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you know who arranged that?
I know who I think arranged that.
And who is that?
Okay, let's see. Ooh, Catherine. I think, arranged that. She's a little bit younger than I am, and was looking to discredit me. And she kind of formed a group, but as is true in all things, who knows if Catherine is really behind it? I don't know.
All right. Will, let me come and ask you. We have another character that is kind of an outcast here. What does Joanna value?
I think she values her land that she's conquered in the shadow, and she values her armies, and her subjects. She has kind of like her idea of it is kind of like the idealized vision of feudalism, where they all serve her, but it's her responsibility to look after them. So, there's always losses. If a couple of hundred guys get killed in a battle, then that's just part of warfare, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's a threat to her entire army or her entire kingdom, then she will fight very hard to protect them.
And she has some serious bad stuff. So she's probably lost some forces, some armies over the ages, right?
Oh yeah. In fact, maybe this realm that she's ruling now is not the first realm that she had. And there's been one or two others in the past that basically, as empires tend to do, collapsed, and then she kind of at some point cut her losses and moved on somewhere else.
I like that you put it that way. Empires tend to collapse, not I failed to protect my empire. Yeah, but that says something right there. That's a good way to frame it. So what she would fight for is the kingdom. She would fight for this thing that she's built. If she's built something, that's what she would fight to defend, right? Okay. All right, that gives me a good sense. Let me come then to Simon. Simon, what do you value?
I think I gotta value people and relationships, because I think it's one of those things that I probably have to work at a little bit more. Not because I can't read people, but because I can. Like, there's just, like, I know what's below the surface when some people don't. And so I read into what they mean versus what they say.
So we have a more strong sense of the bonds between people. How do you feel about the fact that this family, while they are bonded together, they are inches away from being at each other's throats? That while Random sits upon the throne for the moment, there are other people who think that they, would do a better job of it, and that is always at question.
I think at first what I tried to do was use my sort of inherent ability to diffuse more situations in terms of whatever I came across, and try and, cut those off the pass so that, like, things wouldn't get out of hand. But I realized that I can't do that alone. And I think it might be even a reason why there's a little more, like, there's even a little of bad stuff around me, because I seem to keep my hands in a lot of different pots and people talk. So I think it's a lot of me trying to, like, at first it was everything was hands-on, and then I was kind of like, okay, fine. You're just going to keep making more plans. So I think there's maybe one or two people I keep a particular eye on, but everyone else I'm just like, they're going to do what they're going to do, and I'll deal with the aftermath. I can't stop things before they happen.
And do you have anyone that you care about in particular, or is it more of a general thing right now?
I think, I think I do care about my family very much. I think I care enough about Tobias to see where he's going, but by the time I started to have more intimate dealings with him, I'd already kind of chosen to stay off the interfere directly path. So I can see that he's starting to edge towards things, but the best I can do is try and be there when they happen. And I care about my mother, Fiona, and I think I do care a good bit about my father, who I've named Godfrey.
Okay.
And I'm having trouble coming up with names, but I think there is what?
Oh no, go on.
I think there's a girl. I think that I don't really have too much of an idea yet, but I think there is someone with whom I would publicly say I'm rather fond of, and
Sure. Everything
past that I'm like not sure what the hell I'm dealing with.
So someone in amber.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, who? Oh yes, go on.
Sorry, I just realized she's probably the first person I met when I pushed myself back into amber.
Okay.
That is why I have such a weird, fond attachment to her, because it's just, oh.
Who raised you? Was it a group? Was it particular people? When you said that your mother and father had you sent away to be raised in this shadow, who actually did it? Was it a series of nannies or mentors or what?
I think originally when I was sent, they left me enough of a memory to be able to do like human tasks and everything. And I think I went through a series of various apprenticeships with different mentors.
Okay.
Probably, I think I've had apprenticeships with a blacksmith, a knight, maybe one or two others.
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely a scholar.
Okay. Who is this Amber devotee that you have? The person who backs you up, is that your mother, or is that another person from the court?
I want to say it's another person from the court.
Okay.
Probably someone who took notice of the fact that I, arrived back in Amber sort of unannounced, unpulled in, just suddenly there. And
what kind of person do you want? Someone who's a little more beneficent, someone who's a little more strategic, someone who's kind of in between? What do you think?
Definitely strategic.
Well, certainly there is Benedict, who is the master of arms and warfare, who is kind of cold and relentlessly calculating.
I think I'd like to have Benedict on my side, just because I think it's so completely opposite my own family that it's like, what? Why is he like you?
Absolutely. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to Morgard, and I'm going to offer you a relationship question. I'm going to ask you a question, and the assumption here is that all three of you know each other, interact with each other, and we're going to find out something about those interactions. So Morgard, One of the other two, Simon or Joanna, helped you escape from a place. Let's say a particular shadow. Tell me what you had to escape from, and who helped you, and what did you kind of learn in that process?
So I think this was actually Joanna.
Okay.
And Joanna has a familiarity with shadow that I do not have. While I can manipulate shadow, my focus tends to be very oriented towards amber and coming out of amber. However, Joanna has gone to vastly more places, and I want to say this was a trouble that I got myself into, maybe in an adjacent realm from where she has power.
Okay.
And so I was nearby, so she recognized that and helped me escape from the village people, so to speak.
Okay. Gianna, what do you think of that? Does that work for you?
Yeah, and I think Joanna was very happy to kind of display her superiority by magnanimously helping out an Amberite in trouble.
I like that. That gives us some additional stuff. Joanna, in the course of your warfare, your course of your conflicts, you faced an adversary a little out of your league, just based on forces or whatever, and you had to call on one of the others to assist you. I'm going to sneeze again. Who was that? And what is it you were facing?
Okay, well, let's go around the table and say that I had to call on Simon to help me, and let's see. I guess since I'm ranked lower in strength and endurance, maybe it was a situation where my warcraft was not enough.
You needed someone who could stand through the tide of whatever was coming.
Yeah, maybe. I think maybe I was captured and I was without my weapons. And like, even though my army was standing by, I was separated from them. And I really needed someone who had, like, not just the strength of a mortal, but the strength of someone from Amber. And so I used my Logris powers to call on Simon, but I really didn't want to have to do that because that's like kind of like a show of weakness towards Amber. And
Simon, go on.
Oh yeah, just I'm really sore that I now owe a debt to Simon.
And Simon, what was your reaction in that process?
I think I fully realized the magnanimity of being asked for such a thing as this. I don't think I necessarily lorded it over Joanna, but I never forget it. And I think that this whole ordeal, although it was more than likely difficult even for me to deal with during the fact, I sort of take it in stride following.
I like that. That sounds good. Simon, the last time that you had to work alongside one of the PCs, you can choose which one, you saw something about them that you didn't expect, and maybe something that they wanted to to keep hidden? What do you think that was?
I kind of like going around the table, so I am actually going to say it was Morgard.
Okay.
And I think one of the things, one of the things that's sort of immediately interesting to me is just noting sort of, even just naturally picking up on like his attributes, there isn't really anything that like jumps out at me as amazing or like, oh, more amazing than I usually expect from an Amberite.
Mm-hmm.
But I did immediately notice that his pattern imprinting skills are more advanced than my own.
Had a deep appreciation for just how much he knew.
Yeah. And also a little bit of envy.
What do you think about that, Marco? Does that work for you?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So Morgard, you answered your question about Joanna last time. So this is a question between you and Simon. Morgard, you, and this would be an earlier time before this last one we just had, you and Simon nearly came to serious blows, nearly came to a serious conflict. How did that come around? How did that happen? And how did that shape the interaction that the two of you have since then?
Yeah. Simon, do you mind if I name the person who you first saw, your love interest?
Oh, please. I always like. Go ahead.
How about if that was Catherine, my rival, right? The one who kind of screwed me over.
Oh.
And that's how we came to blows.
Oh, I love it. Probably not. It's even better because I haven't like outright said anything like, "Oh my God, I'm in love with her," but just the fact that I view her positively.
And I think that you two were basically friends, and that's where we almost came to blows. Was how could you dare be friends with someone like that because, they're not worthy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love it. I love it, especially because I'm dealing with my own insecurities of worthiness.
Joanna, whenever someone mentions this event from the recent past, the fall of Zothique, you and Morgard get quiet. Like, you don't say anything. There's something about what happened there, a shared secret that you have, shared knowledge. What is that? What happened at the fall of Zothique?
Yeah, I guess it was it was a great battle. We were like conquering Zothique. And maybe this was after I had rescued Morgard in a previous encounter. So I was sort of like bringing Morgard along for help using his pattern abilities. And so, we were invading Zothique and it was like this massive battle. And then we won the battle, but the people of Zothique had this kind of super weapon that they released to, even though they'd been defeated, to destroy my armies. And the only thing I was really able to do was to get Morgard to help me escape using the pattern, escape from another shadow realm. And my whole army was destroyed by this kind of like magical nuclear bomb type thing.
And let's say even a weapon that not only destroyed your armies, but like destroyed that shadow. That shadow, Zothique, no longer exists. Is that okay with you, Simon? Or yeah, okay. And then I think the last person, Simon, we have to do you connected to Joanna.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point in your interactions with Joanna, Joanna helped you, rescued you, saved you, but had like did not acknowledge it, did not try to make a big thing. In fact, maybe tried to hide a little bit that she had rescued you. What happened, and why do you think Joanna is like isn't making a big deal of that?
Joanna trumps me in warfare. And I think when it really comes down to it, one of my weaknesses is assuming that for all intents and purposes, I'm better at just about everything. And so probably tagging on to the whole war aspect, even just tying into I think it wasn't. I think also the reason that I don't bring up how I sort of rescued Joanna is because she sort of rescued me at a point during that battle, because it kind of came to a point where I had to step in with some sort of swordsmanship and nearly won, but I think my pride and arrogance got the best of me very briefly, and I was sort of overtaken. And were it not for Joanna, I'm pretty sure I would still be lying on a battleground or deeper in it.
Joanna, is your desire not to maybe press on that and make it as obvious? Is that a strategic decision on your part or an emotional one, do you think?
I'm not sure. I guess it's
I like you not being certain. I think not being certain is
sure.
an answer as well. I think that's a fair answer. So, Morgard, tell me, what shadow are you in now? Tell me about this place that you're in at this present moment.
So I think that I'm in a relatively low technology primitive shadow. It is nighttime, and I am hurrying through the darkness to get someplace.
Where is it that you're headed towards? Is it someplace on this shadow, or are you trying to walk through shadow to get somewhere?
I think it's on this shadow. I'm in the shadow that is the location of where I need to go, and I think that it's a tavern.
Okay.
Where I'm supposed to meet up with some people.
And have you been in the shadow long?
No, I just arrived.
Okay. And you are traveling along and heading in. You see this tavern in the distance, and there is that moment. Your psyche is not. I mean, is above average, where your senses tell you that something is out of sorts here. Like you see the lights on, you maybe even hear the sound of voices, but you could have leaves kind of crunch under your feet, and something seems off. What do you do?
I am a cautious type,
Okay.
so I think I slow down. I had been rushing to get there in time, when I slow down, it's better to be late and cautious than arrive on time and be ambushed.
Okay.
And I think I circle the place and try and take stock of, what might be setting my spidey sense off.
Okay. You will come over to the window and you listen, you see the light crackle through there, and it takes a few moments for you to kind of realize, as you kind of walk around cautiously, that what you're hearing is that same bit of conversation, the same couple of minutes of conversation repeated. The same laughter, the same voices, the same talking, kind of go. Even the crackle of the fire kind of goes and cycles through.
It's on a loop.
Yeah. What do you do?
I think I try to. So you said it's near the window. Can I see in the window and there are people acting, and when the loot starts over, they go through the same?
Kind of pull that open. You will see it looks like a typical tavern scene. You even see the people you're supposed to meet, and they're talking, and they put their mugs down, and then at a certain point, it starts again. You don't even see the flicker of it. There's no jump cut. There's nothing. It just kind of starts again.
And they have no memory of this. They just, oh, hey, and they greet me, and that's it.
They don't even see you.
They don't see me.
They don't see you. They don't react to you at all.
I'm not sure. How about if I step away?
Okay.
And I'm not sure. Yeah.
You'll step back, and as you step back, you hear the swirling of the leaves on the path behind you, and you look over your shoulder, and you will see these leaves swirl up and begin to form, and you will see it is a transition, an effect, and you will see these 6 figures, cloaks, blades at their side, and their heads come, like there's almost no neck to them, kind of comes down and comes forward. They have black eyes. If anything, this head that's on it is almost like an orca head on it. Big mouth, black tongue and inner part of the mouth, the sharp teeth, eyes, but they have hands like men. And we'll come back to you.
Okay.
So, Joanna, are you in your own shadow, or are you traveling elsewhere at this point?
Let's say I'm in my own shadow.
And tell me about your shadow. What is it called, and what do we see of it?
It's kind of like a desolate world, a lot of like deserts. No, actually, no, it's a very cold world. There's a lot of ice, and the people generally live in like a narrow band of somewhat warm, still cold, but warmer areas. And then everything else is kind of like glaciers. And it's called frost, because actually in the native language, the word for frost and the word for world is the same. Like kind of like we would say earth, which also means dirt, but to them, like the word for world is just frost. And
yeah, nice.
I'm just in like maybe a tent with my commanders drinking mead.
And as you are there talking, you get this feeling of pressure, pressing in on your head, kind of pressing to your attention. It's like when someone reaches out with a trump to speak with you, but there's something unusual about it. And you can see your commanders kind of look at you strangely, like clearly they see that there's something odd here. What do you do?
So with the trumps, when someone calls out to you, you can sort of like choose whether you're going to answer or not. Is that how it works?
Yeah. But and usually if someone were pressing in, you could choose to fight it, or you could choose to pull that call in. But there's something about this pressure that you're not sure. It's not like any trump contact you've felt before.
Okay, I'm going to take a knife in my hand and just like signal to the generals to be on guard, and then I'm gonna try and open myself up to this contact and see if I can let it through and see who's trying to get at me.
Oh yeah, and the second that you kind of reach in and open that contact, the full force of that psychic wave will wash through you, and you will see a couple of your generals grab their faces and fall down, blood pouring out of their nose and their eyes, as that you're essentially become a conduit for that psychic wave. And there is a moment where you see this figure chained, suspended, long, stringy black hair, looks wan, and it looks in pain, and you realize you've only ever seen this figure before painted on a card, and it looks like your father, Eric. And he says, "They're coming." And then that contact is gone. You have a sense, you had a vision of the landscape behind him, the area behind him, the room, and maybe out a window, but otherwise kind of breaks off. And as it breaks off, are you in a tent? Are you in a chamber? Where kind of place you in?
I'm in like a tent made of hides.
Yeah, that the side is torn open, and you will see these figures come in, dressed. They're in skin and clothing and hides with the fur line, not unlike your own people, but they have these heads and these teeth and these eyes, and they come in, and like your generals are picking up the people who've been injured, and suddenly you have this force of people in here, and it is about to get bloody. We'll come back to you. Simon, what shadow are you in?
I think I've actually taken a trip back to the world that I was sent to be raised, which I have decided to name the Limbo Isles.
Tell me about the Limbo Isles.
So I know that I said that like the shadow I was raised in was sort of very medieval sense with modern sensibilities, and now that I look further at it, that is actually, as goes the name, one of a few different isles, part of this shadow world, where, generally speaking, there are different types of places within that have something very different about them from what we as humans would know on Earth. So there is a sort of, there's a separate modernistic isle, but while the clothing and everything is like that, they need to. They have to do a lot of trade because on their own, for some reason, most people there lack technical skills. And there's also a separate like futuristic isle, which has some pretty backwards ideas about
Okay.
how people should be getting along and existing and coexisting. But I've returned to the medieval one with the modern sensibilities. I think I'm visiting my mentor, my blacksmith mentor, who I will just go ahead and name Jack.
Okay, and Jack is showing you the weapon that he's been working on, a sword, bigger than most people would carry. Essentially, again, with your strength, you can wield blades even of ludicrous Final Fantasy size with the ease of another warrior. But he has made a blade for you that is larger enough to be striking. It shouldn't be a one-handed blade, but he is making that for you.
Mm. And I think if he passes it off to me briefly, I'll kind of test the heft and balance, which is a silly idea for me because this is like child's play.
Oh yeah, strong. Kind of swing that around.
Yeah, I'm careful not to hit Jack. I think I did that a bit growing up, but now I've kind of got a very keen sense of hand-eye coordination.
And as you are doing that, you feel the first sort of tentative touches of someone reaching out for you for a trump contact. Do you answer?
I think that I set the sword down lightly, and I politely ask to be excused and go into the side room that used to be my own. And then, yes, I answer it.
And it's hard to exactly place it for a second because the contact is chaotic. But after a moment, it will kind of resolve for you, and you'll realize that it is Catherine. And she says, "Come to me, help me." And she is reaching out, trying to pull you through.
Oh boy, I shouldn't have set that sword down.
What do you do?
Do I have a chance to jump to like reach for the sword in the other room before pulling myself through?
Do you want to go and grab for the sword?
Yeah, I'm gonna grab
that moment to do that.
No, I'll pick it up later. I'm gonna go through.
Okay, so you grab on and you go, like you think, okay, I can probably pull her through or something, but as you kind of do that and grab on, something happens on her end, and you get yanked through, and you will realize that you're kind of flying through the air. She's clearly on horseback, and you've been pulled through, and you both go off of the horse and kind of both hit the ground, rolling along in the dirt. It's night. The moon is up above. She is riding through these woods, and you will see these figures that are running faster than they ought to be, almost loping. These 6 warriors dressed in a kind of a scale armor with these cold dead eyes and the black and white of the orca, those teeth, and they come thundering towards you. It looks like they are set on her, and they are clearly after her. What would you do? What would be the first thing you do?
I intercept the path of the closest assailants and just attempt to full-on clothesline him.
Okay, so yeah, we will see you move up to intercept. We'll come back to you in just a moment. Morgard, what do you do? These 6, they've appeared. They clearly mean you some amount of harm.
So tell me, do I get any kind of feeling of pattern or logris or anything like that? Are these do these creatures have a relationship to amber?
They're not certainly not pattern creatures, but if they are chaos creatures, there's something unusual about them. Like you're not that sensitive to logris to be able to like ascertain the precision of it, but you can tell when it's chaos, but it's not like any chaos you've felt before.
So I don't see any reason why I couldn't just step away through shadow.
That's right. Do you want to start moving through shadow?
I do.
So tell me what you have to start moving to do that. Right. You're on foot. And so what's the sort of the first couple of details that you change here about this as you go to move through the shadow?
So I think that as they're kind of forming up, I turn and walk around the corner of the tavern. And as I walk around the corner of the tavern, the sun starts to rise. And I continue walking around the building. And as the sun gets a little bit higher in the sky, I cross on the other side of the building, around the back of where they were. And I think that's whenever we see the trail that exists that is headed towards a more populated area.
Absolutely. And this is for you. It is a brief work. You are skilled at this. And you will do that. I mean, you know how to get away from these things. They popped up, not a problem. And it is on that fourth thing when you kind of make that turn and you get on the trail and you start moving away, that you will hear the sound of the crunching of leaves and boots as they come around that corner. And you've gained some small distance, but they have also walked through shadow and they are moving to follow.
Yeah, that's a lot more scary.
What do you want to do?
Yeah, so I think that I start to reach out for the people that I know, the people that I trust.
Okay.
I think I'll reach out to Simon first.
Okay.
Via a trump.
Absolutely. Let's intercept these two moments here, if we may. Simon, hit the ground. You get up. You grab onto this first orca. We're just going to call them orcas because I like that. That has a good sharp name to it. What do you do to this first orca of the 6 that are here?
I pick him up effortlessly and just throw him at the next one.
Okay. You lift him up, grab him. He's big, but you've got that strength behind you, and you will go to throw him. And I will say that will definitely knock him down. And he and this other one land. It's going to knock Catherine over. And you will see 2 of the others kind of turn and start to move you. Even as that happens, you feel that tingle of another person reaching out to you via Trump. Do you answer?
In the hope that it is some kind of assistance, I will answer.
Okay. Morgard, Simon answers the Trump, and you can tell that he is in the middle of something.
Right. And I say, I need to come through to you right now. And I reach out.
Yeah. I'm honestly, it's just nice to be the one pulling instead of being pulled in. So yeah, I'll pull you right in.
Okay. Yeah. Then Morgard, you'll feel that yank and you are pulled in, and you land on your feet because you don't have any bad stuff. And you will see Simon is there. You see Catherine, these 2 orca of the similar ones, the ones you were just facing, have knocked her over, and there are 2 more coming at Simon, and there are 2 that are heading for Catherine. What do you do, Morgard?
Well, so there are 2 that are coming towards us, and I immediately instinctively speak a power word of pain attack.
Okay.
Towards one of them. So it cringes in pain as
Absolutely.
I kind of separate from Simon so that there are two targets.
Perfect. So you will step away. You'll get that. What do you suppose that? I mean, is it just a sound that we hear, or is there a visual effect when you do this pain thing? Do you think?
So I think it's just sound, and
Okay.
the orca kind of doubles over in pain for a moment,
Okay.
is distracted. Yeah.
Yeah. You know that trick only works once on things like these, but you've got them separated. The other things did not come through the trump, so at least you've cut your numbers for the moment here. We'll come back to you in just a second. Tell me, Joanna, you're in a tough situation. There are 6 fierce warriors in this room. Your staff, your retinue that are here are injured and trying to get people out. What do you do?
The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my war horn and blow a blast of warning to warn the whole camp, because we're like, I think our tent is in the middle of like a camp of an army that's on the march. So
Absolutely.
so warn them that there are enemies in the camp. And
blow that sound echoes out. These things are coming in at you.
My shape-shifting powers, it's like you can make minor changes instantaneously. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. You can do.
You can't like turn into a different creature.
No, that takes time.
It takes time, yeah. Okay, so I think the change I'm going to make is that my nails are going to become like as sharp as daggers.
Okay.
And I'm just going to go for the first attacker and tear his throat out.
Absolutely. I think you will leap up and you will rake your claws against this first one, and you absolutely get your hands in there. And it takes a second. Their skin is tough. And there's that resistance before your claws kind of come out the other side. And this thing will stagger back. You have a decent warfare. You realize you're in a very bad position here. You've got some serious bad stuff. There are 5 of them. They could overwhelm you. Plus, if you had all want to defend your people, fighting them off may not be the best plan. How do you want to change the situation? How do you want to even the scale? What do you want to do?
Okay, I guess actually if I'm surrounded, I'm gonna back up against the tent wall, and then I'm gonna just like slash open the tent wall and fall back. And yeah, once I'm outside, what do I see? Are there more of these monsters, or are there just the 5 that are attacking me?
So you will cut through and you step out into the whatever storm was you thought was a few hours off. Whatever blizzard has come in, and it is white out here. So you hear the camp rousing, but it's only been a few moments, and you don't see any more of them. But you will see 2 of them fall on your generals that are bleeding, and like sharks, they tear them. And then like they can't quite help themselves. They have to stop at that, and the other 4 come rushing out into the cold, following you. But you've got yourself, a little bit of a cost, but you've got yourself some open room to operate in. Do you want to engage them here? Do you want to do something else? What would you do?
I'm gonna blow my horn again. Hopefully, well,
your troops are already rousing.
Sorry?
Your troops are already rousing. Yeah.
Well, I think maybe there's like a particular signal with the horn to be like summon the troops to defend me.
Oh, okay. Absolutely. You will sound that horn again, and the first of these humans will come rushing out from their tents to meet for the chopper to get in the way. And the first like half dozen run to interpose them things at these, and you will get a barrier here and be able to slow their progress. They're devoted to you. They follow you. You are their leader, and
Well, I'm not planning to use them as a barrier. I'm going to be fighting alongside them.
Okay.
And yeah, hacking away at these monsters.
Sure. We'll come back to you. The first couple fall, and then you can step up to try and see what you can do about changing the scale here. Let's come back to Simon. Simon, Morgard has appeared. He's pulled off one of them. There's another one coming at you, but there's still a bunch of them heading towards Catherine. The one you grabbed and crushed and threw is in very bad shape. So you've at least taken one of these 6 out. What do you want to do?
So I think I grabbed the one not experiencing pain word.
Okay.
And basically lob him like a bowling ball at the 2 that are going after Catherine.
Okay.
Or the ones that are going after Catherine.
So I think that you will grab him and you will throw him and definitely catch those 2 that are going and sort of push them back. But you'll hear that scream from Catherine as the one that got knocked down plants its jaw on her shoulder and bites into it and starts doing that like it's gonna like the jaw is kind of locked there. We'll come back to you in 1 second. Morgard, you've got this one. Pain word, you kind of stepped away. You see that Simon more interested in protecting Catherine than anything, and you'll hear the delicious sound of Catherine screaming.
So I think I'm going to step up, whip off the short cape that I'm wearing, and step up to the orca, whip the cape around its head so that it can't see, and then shove it in the direction of Simon.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I think since you're not doing warfare, this is more of a clever kind of thing. I think that you can edge them out on that and push this one over towards Simon. Simon, you see one coming towards you that Morgard has set up. The other one biting into Catherine. You've knocked down a couple of them. They're down for the moment. There are just 4 that are operative left. What do you want to do?
I'll instinctively just throw a punch at the one being set up for me.
Okay.
Just at its jaw, because the jaw suddenly seems like the most important thing to take care of first. And if it remains in a place where I can hit it, I am just going.
You are pretty strong. You have some martial skills. What does that look like? What is your style?
Ooh, okay. Yeah, let me think about it. So I think that because I know my brute strength and because I realized that worked the first time, I'm being a little bit less clever about things that I might normally be, and also my instincts are save Catherine. So I think at this point, I see it set up and shoved towards me, and like I think in my head I do like the math to kind of like figure out in my head like where doing this would do that and like set it up. So whereas before I was just kind of throwing them around helter skelter, I think this time I very much kind of calculate it so that basically I snap a punch specifically at its jaw to break it. And then I'm going to try to pick it up and slam it into the one I crushed earlier that was biting down on Catherine.
Yeah, so I think we will see that almost Sherlock Holmesian, the calculations come up and your fist comes out, and we'll hear that smack and kind of shake its body, and you kind of stagger back, and then you reach over and you grab it and kind of turn, and you start bringing it over to knock that one off, even as you see Catherine is looking up at you, hand reaching out as this thing is biting into her, and you are moving over to do that. We'll come back to you two in just a second.
Okay.
Joanna, tell me what this fight looks like. You go shoulder to shoulder. Some of your men have fallen. Two of these things have been drawn off to have a frenzy in that tent, which has given you some space, and you've got some room. What does the fighting look like here?
I think actually, if I've got a bit of space with my men protecting me, I'm going to use my Logris powers.
Okay.
So
what kind of weapons do your men use? Is it swords? Is it clubs? Is it what kind of weapons do we see them bearing?
You know what? Let's throw a bit of the kind of like the 70s sci-fi into it. They actually have these like energy lances that are like kind of like a spear that's glowing with purple energy at the end.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
crystals in the hilt kind of thing. All right, yeah. All right. So everything's bathed in violet black light out here as they're kind of fighting back. These things have their own weapons of similar design. They're knocking them around. So what do you want to do with your Logris power?
So as I understand my Logris power, I can reach out and summon objects from the world that I'm in, right?
Yeah.
So what I want to do is, like, we're surrounded by ice, like the whole world is full of cold, and I want to just like grab cold from the world around me and just concentrate it on my enemies to freeze them.
Interesting. So your psyche is pretty good. Your endurance is pretty good. So I think you will be able to reach out your Logos. Tell me, the book describes this tendrils. What does it look like in your mind when the Logris activates and reaches out through the shadow that you know very well?
I think in my mind it looks like I have this kind of like metaphysical third eye that opens on my forehead. Not like a literal third eye, but it's like in my mind, and then there's these kind of like ethereal tentacles spreading out in all directions from my third eye, and they're just kind of like wrapping around the ice and snow, and then maybe because I'm pulling on it, I'm getting cold as well, but I'm growing fur all over my body to kind of offset that, and so then I'm channeling the cold through into these shark monsters.
And so you will grab onto that cold. This takes a little bit of time. I mean, you know this world, so you have a strong familiarity with it. I mean, you don't have to reach that far, but it still takes a moment for the tendrils to manifest and you to pull that through. But you will let loose that Arctic blast and push them back, and you'll see at least one of them freeze enough that a couple of your lancers will get in, and there'll be that almost harpoon of a whale there as they drive that into them. But a number of your men have died in this process, and so we've got the bloodied snow and frost and so on. And at this point, the orcas are down to perhaps half their numbers after you let loose that cold. And you've still got that shiver. Tell me, the people here who know you, I think this is actually a thing. We've got some bad stuff here that I think that maybe they haven't seen you take on these change the claws and the fur and so on, and that there is a sort of parting, like clearly there's fear. They you're still their commander, but they are going to be talking about this and not in good terms for a while. But you've cut their numbers down by half and pushed them back into the tent. We'll come back to you in just a second. Morgard, what do you do?
So I've got a few questions.
I've got
First
some
of all,
answers.
is fighting the orcas, are they Amberite level or are they
So individually, in terms of how the fighting them, probably closer to Amberite or even a little bit on better. The thing that makes them like have to deal in a potent thing is when they are all together. So their scale is very much based on how they coordinate and numbers and all of that kind of thing.
I see.
What you did to pain them was the perfect thing to do there.
Right. I just wanted to see,
Sure.
if I tried to fight them, since I'm at Amberite level, am I outmatched?
We would find out.
Oh.
And don't forget that tell me how you would even the scale if you wanted to take on one of them. I mean, you've got those abilities. Get that edge.
The next thing is I wanted to ask a little bit about tone, and I think that Will might have answered this, but with pulling out the energy weapons and that kind of stuff. So lastly, did Catherine pull us through to Amber?
No,
okay,
you're definitely in a shadow. Yeah.
Fantastic. So I think,
in fact, you will realize that you're back in the shadow that you started in, the one that you were going to meet the tavern.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That walk.
Yeah.
And then pop through, and so you're actually a little nervous because those other ones aren't that far away shadow wise. If they have your scent.
Nice. Okay, so I think now's the time whenever I reach into my bag and I pull out my 45 and I plug the orca who is biting Catherine.
Okay. And so you will set up and let that loose. You are amber level. These things are separated. I think you don't even have to do any particular setup, especially because Simon has kind of set you up already. And so, Simon, as you're running up, you will hear this boom, and you will see the shark that has its jaws clamped on Catherine probably give one last jerky bite as the blood comes out from its temple, what passes for a temple on this thing. And what do? There's still two of these that are moving around. What do you do, Simon?
First things first, I unhinge the jaw of the one that was biting Catherine because I am making sure. My mistake was thinking I could just protect her by standing in the middle. But I once I unhinge the jaw with one hand, I take her hand with the other and pull her up.
And I think you can absolutely do that, but I do think that is the point at which you feel the bite onto the meat of your arm as one of these orcas just comes in and clamps down. And it's when it bites, it's almost like somebody is ratcheting a vice as it tries to close it. But you are pretty strong. What do you do?
So my other arm is still holding on to that unhinged jaw.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just tear it off and bash the one that's biting down on me.
Kind of lift it up. It won't quite give, but you can take that head and use it like a big, like a skull, like a mace, just smash it into there. And it will crack and give. There's still one more that is left that is coming up on your other side. Morgard, what do you do?
I think now's whenever I kind of kneel down and what I'd like to do is I'd like to open up a shadow portal and call for Artax, my familiar, the wolf thing, to jump through and attack the orca.
Okay. Tell me what that looks like.
Yeah, so I think that Morgard actually just kind of kneels down, but whenever he does, he raises his hand and kind of pulls open this portion of shadow and yells the wolf's name, Artax. And the wolf comes bounding through and,
what do we
starts.
see on screen? What does it look like?
So natural wolves are very, very large.
Yeah.
It's gray in shape. It bounds through, jumps on top of the orca and starts savaging it. So I think they're busy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Simon, as you kind of turn, there'll be that blur at the corner of your eye. Have you ever seen Artax before, Simon? Is this something you do? Have you seen Artax?
I'm gonna say yeah. I'm familiar enough with Morgard, and we've had enough interactions that I think I've definitely seen Artax before. I think there's a moment, just because I'm in the heat of battle, where he flashes by me, and I have to stop myself because my initial reaction is, okay, I have to react to that.
And it is a pulverizing hit as Artax smashes into this orca. Just the sound of it, you hear the crunching as it starts to give. Whereas Morgard himself, he can handle his own. I mean, he's amber level warfare. He can duel and fight and things like that. This thing is a beast, and the orca is gone in a few seconds there. We cut away from that. Joanna, you force these three back into the tent. The situation, you have your warriors, but they've been bloodied. Half your general staff lies dead at their feet. What do you want to do?
So these creatures are really beyond human level.
They're on. I don't want to say they're on your level, but you were smart to step back, because 6-on-1 they could have taken you. 3-on-1, you've got a decent warfare. You might be able to take them, but probably with you're probably going to need to even the odds a little bit.
Okay, I'm going to use my Logris tentacles again.
Okay.
I'm going to reach out across this world. Well, really just across their camp, which is full of weapons, and I'm gonna try and pull in a powerful weapon.
What does that look like? What is the weapon here that you pull to you to give you the edge?
I think it's let's say it's like an energy sword. They're pretty rare even on this world.
Okay.
Even though we have this kind of advanced technology in some ways, it's very hard to manufacture this. There's not that many around. But I'm just going to grab the nearest one. I can get one from anywhere in the world if I have to, using my Logris.
Yeah, but where it is in the camp, so in this case it only takes you the matter of a couple seconds to grab it.
Yeah. And once it's in my hands, it's like this kind of shimmering blade of light, giving off kind of like a rainbow fractal refraction in the air, and I'm gonna start slashing at the remaining orcas with it.
What's your fighting style? Tell me now. You've got this energy blade in your hand. You come charging into that tent. Is it finesse? Is it wild swings? Is it what do we see?
I think it's not finessed at all. It's bringing a lot of weight to bear. A lot of it looks very crude, especially to people who don't know much about fighting.
Mm-hmm.
But people who know a lot about sword fighting, they can see that my strikes are crude, but they're very efficient in bringing my weight to bear.
Yeah, and it doesn't take much because this blade is of a certain potency. It does end up like burning through them, and the smell of cut blubber and flesh that is burnt here is acrid and unpleasant. And there is a moment when you'll hear one of the remaining generals like, "Milady, they're dead. They're dead." And you'll that blade kind of flickers and gives out as the last of its power crystal burns out, and you'll look around, and it's a charnel house through here, both of your own people and of these orcas, and there you can hear the groans outside. The camp medics have come running and are treating to the wounded as best they can, and triaging the others.
And I'm kind of like transformed, like I've got fur all over my arms, and kind of got a, like sharp canine teeth have grown, and I'm also like coated with this like weird blood from these creatures. So
Yeah,
I'm not a pretty sight even by battlefield standards.
The remaining general like moves to push the people away so the camp can't see this, and goes to kind of close the rent in the tent, and says, "Milady, you should conceal yourself."
I'm gonna push him aside actually, and I'm gonna say I have nothing to hide. And I'm gonna like look at all the soldiers who are watching me. I'm gonna like hold up my sharp claws and bare my fangs, and I'm gonna say, what you're looking at here is power, and this is the power that has brought you so many victories. So there's no need to be afraid of it.
What have we done? What have we done? This is a demon. You see them shaken. What? I mean, this is now the leader they believed in is this kind, and they go to carry out their duties, but you can tell that there's a tension in them and a fear in their eyes that wasn't there before. We'll come back to you in just one second. Simon Morgard, the camp goes, the area on the road goes quiet, but for the sound of Artax tearing at this orca. The others are their bodies are still.
I turn to Simon and say, "There are 6 more pursuing me. They are nearby. We should be ready for them."
How are they nearby? I just pulled you through to here.
I was near here. They pursued me. They pursued me through shadow as I tried to escape. And so I used your trump to try to jump through away from them, but they are near to here. And while I'm saying that, I walk over to Artax and kind of rest my hand on his back and pull him back. So this was a kind of a foresty kind of place.
Yeah.
So I think I lead Artax towards like the edge of the forest to kind of step into it, expecting more to arrive. And I say, "Tend to her."
Yeah. I think my initial reaction was a step forward towards the forest to follow, and then he says, "Tend her," and I, my brain's like, yeah, of course, dummy, you were trying to defend her the whole time. So I think I will immediately turn to Catherine and examine her shoulder, or her armor, wherever she was like bit into, because that was pretty dang hard.
And she kind of winces and pulls away a little, and she goes, "We must move. We must move quickly."
they can move through shadow. Do you have any
I
idea?
know that, but if they are on foot, we must find horses or some transport, and we must hell ride away from here. If we don't, then Bray's sacrifice will have been in vain.
So,
What do you mean?
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, what do you mean, Bray's sacrifice?
And she will say, they attacked Bray and I. She dealt with a few of them, and you can tell you've got enough psyche to know that she's not giving you the full story. But she says Bray sent me off. Some of them pursued me, and she reaches into her jacket and she pulls out a set. They're not trumps. They look like cards, but the drawings on them are crude. And she holds up these cards, and you can see it's a picture of you, of Morgard. You will see a picture of Joanna. You will see a picture of Bray and Bastian and Tobias and Eli's character, unnamed. And she says they had these on them. There was even one of me.
Okay. Well, at least then we know who to go look out for. And so in my mind, I agree that we should get away as soon as possible. But also, it's a stupid idea for me to leave Morgard just behind in the lurch and go, yes, let's escape immediately. So I'm going to tentatively step towards the forest and just try and whisper loudly to Morgard, we should go. I know they can move through shadow, but we should go elsewhere.
Nice. So I have no problems leaving. Is she coming too?
I'm not leaving her.
Okay. So I think that what I'd like to do is I'd like to start walking through shadow again.
Okay.
If I understand correctly, I can alter the rules in shadows, and I can alter time. So I'm going to slow time in this area, step out through shadow as we walk around, down the path. We'll walk around a tree. There will suddenly be birds, and I'll speed time back up so that the orcas who are here or to pass through here.
And what it is as you find shadows where time passes differently. That's how you manipulate that. Is you step into a shadow where time passes faster, and another shadow where it passes slower.
Right.
You do that ebb and flow. And Catherine kind of follows behind. What are you aiming for? Are you looking for a mount? Are you looking for a vehicle? What is it that you're doing here in shadow? Are you just trying to obscure the path?
No, I think in this case, I'm trying to slow them down and speed us up and head towards a fast method of transport. I imagine that's going to be a vehicle of some type. Okay. Since these orcas seem to be of medieval, kind of travel, cloaks and swords and that kind of stuff, maybe we might gain an advantage if we find a Jeep.
And yeah, you will begin moving through. What kind of vehicle do you find?
Oh, so I think it's a Jeep.
Okay.
And basically we walk down the path and all of a sudden we find, tracks, and we see as we, turn around the corner, there's a stream and there's a Jeep there that's all muddy where it's been mudding out in the woods.
Yeah. Someone's out fishing. They've got their Jeep here.
And we hop in.
Okay.
And we tear off, and as we kind of go up over the hill, the dirt gets a lot more dry, and we speed off in a different direction.
And even as you hear the sound of those leaf crunching footsteps, the path coming behind you, and I think we'll see you come, over the hill, and I think we see snow on the ground as you kind of come over the hill there. Joanna, your people are disturbed. These orcas have come out of nowhere to attack. What do you do? You had that vision before all of this started.
Yeah, that was really weird. Like, I don't even know what to think about that. Was that real? Like, that my father is alive? I mean, maybe it's some sort of like time thing, time is stranger in Shadow sometimes, because I can't really believe that he's alive after so long. But the first practical thing I want to do is to use my Logris sight to inspect these corpses of the orcas and try and, from what I can tell from the description of the Logris sight, I can tell whether they are whether they have the aura of pattern or Logris or Trump or magic. Like, what is it that makes them so?
I think we see that Logris lens come out, and you kind of focus your mind and energy and attention through it, and you can tell that these things are of chaos, but sophisticated, bound in a different way than you're used to. Strange. It's these aren't like anything you've ever seen before. They are of a different power, and then your sight will be caught by the glow, and your Logris sight will come in. It actually has to kind of turn away because these things are more of pattern than they are of chaos, and you will see a set of cards. They're not trumps. They're rough. They're badly done, but you will recognize the faces that are on them. And I think it's at that point that we probably see the headlights breaking over the hill to the south, and the sound of your camp followers shouting that there's something approaching. And I think that's where we're going to stop for tonight. We will take up with that next week. Is that okay? All right. I'm actually losing my voice. Talk so much. Thank you all very much. I typically, after the second session, we'll stop at the end and do the debrief and do the roses and thorns after we've had a chance to play 2 games. Thank you for going through this very loose character creation process, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this rolls out. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream.